ladies and gentlemen, let's move on with this panel discussion, which is on the topic AI-based personalized medicine, and which is moderated by Dr. Rahul Kumar. He's a CEO and co-founder of Taurean Surgical. Let's welcome him with a big round of applause. And let me also take this opportunity to call upon the stage the panel speakers, Dr. Ramesh, Babu, Datta, Senior Resident, Radiology Department, AIIMS, New Delhi, Dronawat, CEO, Samiteon, Fetal Life.
My name is Dr. Rahul and I am the founder and CEO of helping surgeons see through the bones and skin of the patient. So this is my background, and for the panel discussion we have very experienced and talented speakers among us, and would love to have a great session today with your interaction and understand how AI can be used in personalized medicine. How is it currently being used? What are the challenges? What are the ethics related confusions that we have among us with related to AI and data? Third, what are the future outlook? What are the future challenges that we have for ourselves and how we can meet them? So what is the shortcomings that we have in India and how we can bridge those shortcomings? And would get started this session by briefly requesting the panelists here to give a brief description about themselves and also a brief description on AI and personalized medicine. How do you see it and what is your perspective on it? Kindly be brief with the introduction and this. We'll follow with other detailed questions later on. Kindly introduce yourself, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Rahul. I am Dr. Ramesh Babu, cardiologist practicing in Vijayawada. I run in the cluster about 900 beds connected in the 4 districts, neighboring 4 districts, Krishna, Guntur, Ongole and the West Godavari. So I am very passionate about artificial intelligence, and even in 2012 we got the first intelligent CT machine, 256 ICT, second machine in the country at the time. That was in 2012. And we have a Delhi ICU program where at the central command station, we monitor all the critical care patients of all the 900 beds in the districts. So these are the 2 major areas. We have 5G ambulance where transport related the advice and care is given to the patients. We have 15 such ambulances. So we are very passionate and we see that, artificial intelligence is, in brief, if you want to talk about, it is human genome, human phenome, and human digital. So these are the 3 things which revolve around, probably today's topic revolves around all these 3 words. Dr. Suvrankar.
Hi everyone, I'm Suvrankar Datta. I'm a radiologist transitioning to full-time AI research. I am a visiting researcher at the Rajpurkar lab in Harvard as well, which is at par with Google research and Microsoft research in terms of our outputs which come. I started my journey with AI in the International School of Public Health at JIPMER around 7 years ago, wherein we were trying to predict outcomes in tuberculosis patients who were in our rural setups where we were working. That got me into radiology, wherein we built India's first prognostication model for prognosticating the CT scans in trauma patients and predicting their ICU stays, their mortality rates, and whether the person actually requires an extended stay in the ICU for better outcomes or not. So this was recognized internationally by multiple conferences, and we got very good recognition for our work in this. And currently my work focuses on building foundational models as well as for creating hyper-personalized reporting modules for radiologists, which essentially by using large language models. So we will be getting to know more.
Wonderful. Very exciting to hear.
Thank you. very impressive. My name is Sunny Dronawat. First of all, beautiful city, my first time in Vizag, and it's a beautiful city, and thank you for my friend Krishna from Flint Labs to introduce me to this city. And also, I'm very much impressed by what Andhra Pradesh has done in healthcare. I was just reading some statistics. Your maternal mortality rate is 77, whereas all India is 134. So you should all be proud of yourself, what you've done in Andhra Pradesh here. And why I say that is very important, maternal mortality is when the world looks at a country, the first statistic they look at is child mortality rate and maternal mortality rate. They don't look at how much money you make, they don't look at anything. So that's the first factor. So my name is again Sunny Dronawat. I'm a CEO of Fetal Life. We have a AI-driven medical device. So it's actually a medical device undergoing FDA approval to measure contractions. Currently, 99% of the contractions that women have is not measured. So we developed the first of its kind, so you can measure it at home. When women get the contraction, a contraction in a baby's heartbeat can tell you what is going to go on.
Wonderful.
And along that, we developed AI models where we can predict high-risk pregnancies in women with the 90% confidence interval. And we are extending the same models into other healthcare. For example, we work with Northwestern University to improve on allergy, prediction of allergies. So you can take a medicine before it comes. We are using it in geriatrics to predict frailty, so we know how many times you may go to the hospital. So these models, AI models, are very extensive. My first foray into AI was actually in 1992. I used a program called BrainWorks. It was an MS-DOS to develop a model. So this is nothing new for me. AI, I've been working on it for almost 30 years now. So.
Back then when AI didn't exist, and AI has become a fancy word for a lot of new things these days, but AI is now becoming very, very realistic. It has crossed the boundary whether you are not able to differentiate whether it's AI or a human you're talking to. So in this modern age of AI, and I would like to start with saying that AI-based personalized medicine is one of the most promising trends in modern healthcare. So by leveraging massive data sets, several gigabytes, several terabytes of genomic data, to imaging, radiological imaging data, to clinical records, AI can help tailor treatment exactly for the patient depending upon their clinical data, depending upon their imaging data, depending upon their genomic data, on their unique profile. So we will dive into real world applications of how AI is currently being used, what are the ethical considerations and the challenges of the implementation. So let us start by exploring some of the innovative ways AI is already making a difference in patient care across specialties. So my question first is to Dr. Ramesh sir. So how is AI helping you assess and predict cardiovascular risks more accurately? Could you share a real world example where AI has led to a better outcome for a patient? So I can give you a hint on like either detecting cardiac arrhythmias even before that they can happen to patients, or trying to understand cardiovascular risk profile of the patient and tailoring treatment for that exact patient based upon his own data, something like that.
Yeah. So in any healthcare, you have primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary care. In patients, you know that the cardiovascular disease is #1 cause for mortality, and 50% of the times, sudden deaths happen without any warning signals. In other words, The coronary artery disease doesn't give any symptoms before inflicting acute coronary syndrome or death.
Very good.
So this is the crux. Our own cardiology, our own medical community are surprised why a patient dies and they keep on arguing, debating. But we know that there is something like out of hospital cardiac arrest, the subclinical atherosclerosis, which starts at the age of 25-30 in certain people who have predilection genes. And this, even if they have triple vessel disease, 80%, 90% block, don't have any symptoms because they have intracardiac microcollaterals, nothing will happen. And then once there is a small rupture in the coronary plaque, however, they are totally exercise body. Suddenly, then that makes 100% block and they die suddenly, arrhythmia on. So this is one area, and we have started coronary calcium score and CT coronary angiogram in 2012 with an intelligent CT machine for the second time in the country. So this CT coronary angiogram identified several hundreds of patients who are absolutely asymptomatic. This is one area. Number two, we have intracoronary imaging. Now other two important things in cardiology practice, general, common man and all. A patient needs surgery, patient needs multiple stents, patient needs medical management. There's debates going on and a lot of misconceptions and mistrust among the patients, media and all. Now with this AI, intracoronary imaging and CT-FFR without touching the patient, non-invasive CT-FFR plaque morphology. Now we have huge data, more than 25,000 CT coronary angiograms, and we are trying to figure out how these plaque ruptures. Same plaque, it looks alike, and after 10 years you see, it is the same. In some patients, it is 30% plaque, this ruptures and patient dies or presents with the acute heart attack. So what is the plaque morphology? What is the genetic code? What is the phenomic expression? How you can identify with the wearables or preventive measures or any other investigation? This is a huge area for research, and we have huge data which we are trying to figure out, because of late we developed a passion for AI only about 6 months back. Earlier also we were having this, but then we didn't have the opportunity to have the platforms and then get exposed. So I'm very glad Rahul and the organizers here that we are given an opportunity to interact and exchange our thoughts here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that answer. Thanks to Deep Tech Summit for organizing this, and really very informative session, I must say, especially to all those who are not from a medical background. It may become very daunting to you to get those terms, medical terms, especially coronary and arrhythmias and stuff. So, and I'm really glad that such highly advanced technology is being used here in Andhra Pradesh, in Vijayawada and Vizag, and we are talking about AI to detect patient health condition even before the disease happens to the patient. Very advanced, and I think this is first of its kind in India that we are implementing AI-based patient assessment for cardiovascular risks. A round of applause for the technology that sir is bringing here in India. And my second question would be to Dr. Suvrankar as to, in radiology, so a few years back, almost everyone would say that AI is going to replace radiologists. And here you are talking about AI, and would love to hear your opinion as to, did AI really replace you? And so let me get it serious and ask the question to you. So how are AI tools enhancing diagnostic precision? Are we seeing fewer false positives and quicker turnaround for imaging reports? And one of the examples being automated detection of tumors or lesions, or faster image analysis leading to reduced backlogs of the number of scans that a radiologist sees. So, Doctor, kindly give a brief overview of the AI in radiology field, and how is it evolving, and is it really replacing you? What is the fear regarding AI?
The first time this was told was by the same guy who got the Nobel Prize this year, He had made a comment that we should stop training radiologists. They will be essentially replaced in the next 5 years. And there was one more comment that which was made by the Tesla people that you should be stop learning to drive cars. We'll be having self-driving cars. But still, I regularly travel to my workplace in my own car by driving myself. So, in short, no. AI, at least in the last 10 years, since we first started developing tools in AI, the adoption has been very slow, especially in healthcare. Before we start adopting technologies, a very critical component which we see is that how accurate the algorithms are. In a normal non-healthcare setup, which is not so critical, even an accuracy of 90% is considered wow, right? But when in healthcare we are dealing with hundreds of patients every day, we cannot allow even 1 or 2 patients to get a wrong diagnosis. I will share a small anecdotal evidence regarding this. There is a very famous hospital which was deploying a cutting-edge AI tool, and it was used for finding out rare causes of dementia. And this tool told that this person has PSP, and the preliminary report was almost given to the patient.
So for those non-medical people out there, if you can just say in non-medical term what PSP means, what dementia means.
So dementia is essentially like Alzheimer's when it's a very deadly disease. PSP, you can say, is a similar kind of a very deadly disease, and it continuously progresses for the person. And once you tell that a person has PSP, it means that you have to start the person on treatment, and essentially it's kind of like a death sentence for the person.
It's a pathology related to brain.
Yes.
And very severe pathology and very highly debilitating disease. And how did you use AI in this case?
Yeah, so this company, they told that they are very good, very accurate in detecting. But the doctor who was there, he's very senior radiologist, Dr. Deepak Patkar at Nanavati. He told this doesn't look like a PSP to me, and then he went back and saw the scan, and he told it's a false positive. And these are the kind of mistakes which prevent the real life adoption of really autonomous AI in our setup. Having said that, right now we are at a very transformational point wherein certain AI tools are very, very good, and the accuracy for example, okay, so at AIIMS we are deploying a particular tool called Cure, and now we can even decide the threshold of the particular AI tool to decide in which setup we want to deploy this. So if we are deploying it in a screening setup, we essentially want the AI tool to be very accurate in telling us, okay, this is normal, you don't take a look at that, and it should be very accurate in doing that, so that we can focus on the abnormal parts. In diagnosis, it's quite opposite. In diagnostic setups, we have a lot of patients who have positive findings, which means patients who have the disease. So in that case, the thresholds are set differently. So depending on the setup in which you are deploying an AI tool, currently we can change the threshold of these models, which previously we did not have the capability of doing. So right now, these tools are getting increasingly deployed. The catch currently, and the only thing which prevents us from using this as a very large scale, is that the return on investment in AI tool has not yet been established. And in a country like India, the setup in which we use AI is very different from a country like Japan, wherein in Japan, AI is used as a second reader to pick up findings which the doctors have missed. But here in India, we have a huge workload. Here, AI doesn't act as a second reader, but as an assistant.
So has AI actually helped you see more scans in a day? Yes or no?
Yes, it has.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes. It does the triaging for us.
Okay.
So the abnormal scans are the ones which we see initially.
Okay.
And later point of time when burnout settles in, usually the normal scans at that time we can quickly see and send off as normal. But this is just 0.1% of the people who are using AI, and it's only the tertiary care centers like AIIMS, PGI, and a few centers like Aarti Scans who are using this, and Mahajan obviously. But the 99.9% of the people are still not using AI.
Still not using AI.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of potential for AI in medical, especially radiology. And if there are IT companies who are willing to build AI softwares and technologies, I think please reach out to Dr. Suvrankar for such applications.
Happy to.
And wonderful. So my third question would be to Dr. Sunny. So how can AI-driven insights improve outcomes for pregnant individuals and fetuses? And any breakthroughs in predictive modeling for high-risk pregnancies, and one among them point being early detection of fetal abnormalities or growth issues or personalized prenatal care plans, remote monitoring, telemedicine. So how is AI being used for pregnant women and for fetuses? Are we able to detect diseases, genetic abnormalities in advance? Are we able to treat them? So what has your experience been in that? And
Thank you, good question. Our experience in what we call maternal health care, and probably if you look at maternal health care, it's the most ignored field in medical, even though it's the most important, because we have a problem, is our birth rates are dropping. Women are getting married later in their life.
as you said, we see a lot of fertility clinics, birth rates are indeed dropping.
Yes, and that's why you see IVFs everywhere.
Yeah.
So our solution, what we developed, was to help what we call from cradle to post-pregnancy. So, or what we call conception to post-delivery. So we help at all stages. One, if somebody is trying to get pregnant, we measure their biometrics and use a model to predict what is the best time for conception. Not just when the woman is ovulating, it's beyond that.
So you're increasing chances of a pregnancy using AI. Wonderful.
So IVF clinics will be there still. I'm not saying they will disappear, but using AI and tools of AI, you will have other doctors use. For example, I can speak about radiologists. They're actually making more money with AI now than they were before because they do their reading at a golf course. And AI tells them everything and they just have to write off and they're making money there. So in this case where nurse practitioners can intervene into helping moms. The second is we are seeing a increase in incidence of high-risk pregnancy. Anytime a woman is over 30, in US it's classified as a high-risk pregnancy. Well, what is high-risk pregnancy? Well, in high-risk pregnancy you have gestational diabetes, preeclampsia, and how do you prevent that? Once you get it, you get it. So right from the time they get pregnant, we use AI to predict which woman is going to be high risk.
So how are you predicting? So we want to know more on that. How are you actually predicting a woman whether she's at a high risk stage or not? What technology are you currently using to predict that? Can you describe more about that?
Absolutely. So we started first with data from CDC, which is Center for Disease Control. We also have an organization here called NQR in India, which is National Quality Register. So we have data from India, we have data from Ukraine, we have data from Costa Rica and US and Canada. And we took all that data and put it into a database. So we have records for over 2 million pregnancies. So we started by building that data.
So I think data forms a bedrock for AI here.
Absolutely.
And I'll be very happy if we can find that data in India here, similar data. And tell me more, so sorry for interrupting you.
So you build the data. So I'm gonna go. Hope doesn't get too technical. You can stop me. We take data and divide it into two parts. One is to build our models, and one is to test our models. So I'm happy to say that our models are beyond about 95%.
95%.
Yes, in predicting high-risk pregnancy. Again, our goal is only to predict high-risk pregnancy and then give that score to an OBGYN, and then they develop what is called a personalized care plan, where our topic is how is AI helping with personalized care.
Personalized care for pregnant women. Wonderful.
So we have something called the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology. They have developed care plans for different types of pregnancies. Whether it's a normal pregnancy, high-risk pregnancies, somebody who's pregnant with twins. So there's different care plans for different categories of pregnancies. Unfortunately, I didn't see a care plans, nationalized care plans in India. So I think whoever is in charge of the medical society here, they should develop a care plan first.
And I think we have to reach out to the Indian Medical Association regarding that.
Yes. So you have standardized care plans for everything.
Wonderful.
And because you want to start with certain standards.
Wonderful.
Because you need benchmarks to benchmark against your personalized care plans.
Wonderful.
So now AI, we take the AI, we feed it into we have three models. One is a social model, a clinical model, and a comprehensive model. And using these three models, we can predict high-risk pregnancies. And from there, we can actually use generative AI to create these individual care plans.
So you're using AI for risk assessments, number one, using the existing data, and using that as a reference, taking the individual patient's personalized data, then risk stratifying whether the patient is high risk or medium risk or low risk. Wonderful. And what about diagnostic? Is AI being used for diagnosing a disease?
Correct. So I'll tell you, we have a patent on the first of its kind device to measure contractions at home using Bluetooth technology.
So contractions here mean uterine contractions for pregnant women. We are able to, normally it's very difficult to measure the uterine contractions at home. So sir, his company, they have built a device which pregnant women, they can wear at home, and I think the information is sent to the cloud. Tell me more about that.
Yes. So it's a very small device. It's the size of a pager. We used to carry those pagers. It's the size of a pager. It is got a Bluetooth technology into it, and it connects with any device, whether you have a tablet or a phone or anything, and it graphs the contractions.
Uterine contractions of pregnant women. Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah. So what happens in contractions is women get contractions at any time. There's no way to predict. Okay. Someday we will be able to predict it, but we don't have data for it. That's what we are getting there to. We want to collect all that data. Because if you can predict contractions, then you can plan actually your trip to the maternity hospital much earlier.
Much earlier, wonderful. So we can save a life using AI. So as you can see, we've heard some exciting examples of how AI is revolutionizing patient care in each specialty. And however, effective AI deployment depends greatly on data quality and ethical consideration. So let's talk about that next. So my question would be to everyone here. For all panelists, AI models are only as good as the data they are trained on. How do we ensure representative data, especially in a diverse population, and avoid biases that could skew patient outcomes? How are we collecting data? So, sir, as you said, how does cardiovascular data impact a patient's outcome or prognosis? For example, I'm very afraid that recently I've heard in news that many startup founders have suffered from cardiac arrest. Makes me very scared, and I want to know, can AI help me survive? for more than, like, say, 100 years. And everyone here, obviously. Yeah. How can AI be used to help increase human survival? What data are we using? What data can we give you to help us increase our chances of living?
Don't get into startup.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, still most of the people believe that heart attacks happen rather suddenly because of stress or something, okay, and sleeplessness, stress, eating something. No, it is wrong. The seed for heart attack occurs usually, majority, 95% of the times, 20 to 25 years back, at the age of 25, 30 years. And then slowly in some genetic reasons, or in some people it progresses. It may not progress, it may remain at 30% till the age of 80, or within 1 year it will rupture. So rupture, the plaque characteristic, whether it is cholesterol plaque, predominantly whether it is calcium plaque or fibrotic plaque, most important thing is the surrounding cap thickness, 65 microns. If it is less, it will rupture. So now the technology is
So for non-medical people, how would you describe the plaques?
Yes, plaque is a cholesterol deposit in the coronary vessel. The low density lipoprotein cholesterol enters into the endothelium of the vessel and it gets harbored there. Then slowly it expands. Then over a period of time, macrophages, monocytes, and then once it becomes necrotic and suddenly it ruptures. You don't know what is the moment. Okay, that is one.
So the blood vessels, so the channels which supply blood to the heart, they get blocked because of cholesterol, high cholesterol. And yeah.
Most important, all of us should understand is, you must be knowing, Indians have 3 to 6 times higher predilection than heart attacks. About 10 to 15 years younger age compared to Caucasians, Americans. Okay?
So you're scaring me.
No, but then there is science. Because of this, many of our colleagues also now. Anyhow, so keep it aside. Now, what is it? Now there is clear data that cardiometabolites in Indian patients, there is something like Indian Phenome Project. I was talking about genome and phenome. Genome is the genetic traits which you inherit, which you can't change. Whereas phenome is the external expression, your hair color, your skin color, and then how it is expressed, the environmental factors, then several other factors, drugs and infections. These can change the expression, the penetrance of this genetic code. So now Indian Phenome Project, which was started and by CSIR, if you know, so about 10,000 patients were registered by this President and Secretary in June 24. And because it is felt that there are 1,14,000 metabolites in the human body, out of which we know only about 8,000. That means we know only tip of the iceberg of science. And now with the next generation sequencing and with the protein unfolding, because of which the Google DeepMind, the scientists there got the Nobel Prize this 2024. This has opened a lot of, this has been an enigma for us, how the three-dimensional protein, the DNA, the RNA and the ligands, how these appear, and then they have opened it. They could open with the deep mind. And now you know ATCG. So that is a DNA, you have what you call as nucleotide, single nucleotide polymorphisms, the genetic mutations. Now the whole science, even they are talking about personalized medicine, this is what it is. It is the genetics, and coronary artery disease, 50% of the times it is because of the genetics. You have a separate gene for hypertension, you have separate gene for diabetes, you have separate gene for LDL. But sometimes we see 70-year-old guy, we were ignorant in the sense that when I was doing angiogram in 1996, oh, this man has 70 years, he has got hypertension and diabetes, he has high cholesterol, he will have triple vessel disease. To our surprise, many patients we used to see normal coronaries. On the other hand, there is no risk factor. 30-year-old females, we were seeing 3-vessel disease. So we know very, very little. There is something like a gene for coronary artery disease. It could be associated with hypertension gene, it could be associated with diabetes, metabolic syndrome, lots of other things. So this Human Genome Project, Phenome Project of India, now the Niti Aayog, has done wonderful job in the past 7 years. If you go through the activities of Niti Aayog, Dr. Vinod Pal, who was AIIMS, right? He was pediatric surgeon, excellent work under his guidance. Now we know this, apart from the Ayushman Bharat or the Aushadhi, and now they were talking, in fact I was talking to them maybe 3-4 years ago. So they were telling that every child that is born, they'll be given a unique ID code. And the future is going to be, once you have the genetic code, and whoever the patient treats, that goes into the central repository, the department, so that nobody can mismanage the patient. Now, if patients are treated by RMPs, patients are treated by everyone non-qualified who are not updated also.
So you mean to say, very exciting to hear, sir. I got goosebumps. So Indian Phenome Project, very exciting to hear. Any startup IT companies who want to build applications in this domain, please reach out to sir. And so digital twins is a very novel concept, and how AI is being used to personalize treatment. Wonderful.
No, actually, about the 1970s, there was a problem. There was a problem in the spaceship. They had developed the digital twin, they identified what was the problem, and they could rectify it, they could come down. Wonderful. This was 1973, NASA has done it.
So my question would be to, again everyone, but to Dr. Suvrankar. So AI requires enormous amounts of patient data. So as a radiologist, can you speak about the data privacy framework around imaging data? And what measures do you ensure for compliance with the data protection regulations like anonymization or HIPAA regulatory and other patient consent and transparency? So how are you dealing with all that?
It's recorded.
I don't know.
Okay, I just want to know how
Speak at your
I
own
guess. Okay. So I can tell you something you mentioned, right? It's in gigabytes and terabytes of data which we have. Medical imaging data actually goes into petabytes of data. And there is a huge consortium working globally to get this data organized. Sadly, however, in India, we are significantly lagging behind in structuring and organizing the huge amount of data, both imaging as well as non-imaging data which we have in the country, to form a central database. We have an initiative at our lab at Harvard. It's called MAIDA, M-A-I-D-A. It's a massive data initiative wherein we collect data from multiple hospitals in the US as well as internationally. However, there is no such South Asian or Indian initiative yet which is doing this. Where I see a huge opportunity for anyone wanting to connect to hospitals and get a central data repository, because data is the next oil, and you know that, you have heard that everywhere. If you can crack a business model in which you can get together data from different hospitals, healthcare providers in a very ethical manner with patients' consent, then you can actually use that for developing much higher accurate and more reliable AI models.
Yeah.
Now coming to the question of the data privacy laws, you know there is this DPDP Act which came
Yes.
a couple of years back, and a modification of that has come just 3 days back called the DPDP-R, and it's open for comments for everyone right now. There is a very big catch, and in fact, if anyone was there for the fireside chat yesterday with Rajiv Chandrasekhar, he mentioned that there's a huge caveat in that. Previously, before DPDP Act was there, you can anonymize a patient data and use it for developing your models. Once the DPDP Act came in, and this was the central topic of discussion across all our forums in NASCOM, in ASOCHAM, everywhere, that what happens with anonymized data which we have in our storage, because according to DPDP, a patient can even withdraw their consent from using their anonymized data, number one. Secondly, the moment DPDP Act became a law, after that, any AI development or any development which occurs using a patient data has to have the specific consent of the patient that my data can be used for this particular purpose, which 99.99% of the places don't have yet.
So we are moving towards more and more transparency towards data protection and whether your data is being used for what purposes, and wonderful times, I must say.
But this is the lacuna which is still there. And because this is not clear by the government yet, that how can we utilize data of patients, it's not so easy to remove the patient's data after your model is built. But that is what DPDP allows the citizen as a right.
As a right.
So this is a caveat which needs to be brought out very fast, because this is preventing a lot of us from giving out our data.
So we are
to
very
private
interesting
players.
times ahead for this.
In Europe, actually 4% of the turnover, yearly turnover is the penalty if there is data, privacy breach. The other thing is like you have this federated learning, where the area is not identified, but you have the data from multiple sources globally. So that is the way, I think that there should be any problem with federated learning. So the government should ideally accept.
The government should, but it has not laid down the laws yet.
I think we should,
Wonderful. So my question to Dr. Sunny would be, how do you address the ethical dilemma when an AI model suggests a different treatment route than what the clinical guidelines recommend? Where does that accountability lie?
So, ethics is first and foremost important. So you need to build ethics into your model.
Ethics into model. Wonderful.
Yeah. So never ignore that when you're building the model. Second is the guidelines set by doctors has to be incorporated in your model. So AI will not replace doctors. AI, the best example of AI is, I don't know if you have seen Iron Man movie.
Yeah, I've seen.
So I always say AI is the helmet, but the person behind you can't replace that person. And so all it is doing is giving you a helmet to work on.
So what if a doctor, say an AI model has suggested a specific treatment or diagnosis for a patient and the doctor doesn't agree with that? So is there a cause for medico-legal malpractice there?
So it's not the doctor doesn't agree with that. If the doctor is educated that ethical standards and standards that are used in standard care plans is used in the model, then the doctor can always look at from a critical point of view. It's always good to have more opinions than one opinion.
So the final authority is the doctor?
Yes, the final authority.
So it lies with him. So what decision he takes?
Yes, but the AI model can educate the doctors to think critically.
Okay.
It's like, AI committing an error in diagnosis, right? So there are 2-3 aspects. One is you have completely autonomous cars causing a lot of accidents every year, right? You have assisted, automated but assisted driving. So now that is more preferable. The driver is a physician or a radiologist. You need to have a driver, finally at least to endorse, but instead of seeing 10 scans, he can see 50 scans in a day because it has ruled out most of the normal scans and abnormal scans he will see, and then he will see. That is one thing. Then second thing is in US, the reimbursability of AI assisted diagnosis. Because now in some areas it is reimbursable. So in AI, for example, cranial scan, AI can do in 1.2 seconds, 150 times slower than a most experienced radiologist of 8 seconds. 1.2 versus 8 seconds. This is one of the studies. So overall, there is no doubt that AI is not the luxury, it is the necessity. I have been practicing for almost 36 years. The time since I started, is entirely different. Now, explosive knowledge in each department, I cannot remember. Even in cardiology, some other areas, I can't remember. So, explosive knowledge and disorganized, even best of the institute sometimes, the data is not very structured and programmed.
Yes, sir.
And lots of imaging, multimodality imaging, then you need to have a lot of pure curated data to be fed into this, and then for making quick money, some of the companies
Yes.
can introduce certain variables or certain prediction models which are not very true to creating trust. So lots of issues in the ethics, data protection, regulation in Europe. So that's why now globally in 2023, this Tesla, and 4 or 5 people have met and then stopped advancing the models. You know, Fugaku and Frontier are the fastest supercomputers in the world, right? So Japan is going to make by 2030 and fastest 100 times more than the current fastest computer. But these people have said the modeling, the improvement in the modeling, there should be a check and there should be a global. And then that is how Europe and Japan have come together to share their codes in the systems, the supercomputers. So globally there should be even the wearable manufacturers and the people who are introducing, then the global societies, so that the uniformity in prediction models, guidelines, treatment protocols, follow-up protocols, and even surgical areas, all these things, I think things are going to come up in the next few years. People have to agree, because 1,000 brains, 1 lakh brains, a lot of literature put into the supercomputer. I cannot say I am more experienced than it and what I say is right. So it is going to be uniform guidelines, and patients will know this is a percentage of death. If I say coronary bypass surgery, 1% death or 5% death or 20% death based on the underlying disease, they should believe, looking at the literature, yes, I have diabetes, I have kidney disease, my risk is 20% for patients. Because people play. Somebody says, no, it's only 5%. Some cardiologist says, no, 20%. Then people come and argue with us. Why do you say that? This is where the ethics is hard to grey hair and, it can't be that.
Yes.
It has to be scientific, objective data. This is going to happen.
Wonderful.
And to add to that, you need devices that can send data directly to the cloud, where there's no human interaction of data entry, where we can have problems.
Data manipulation.
Yeah, data manipulation. So, for example, we built our device in Bangalore actually.
Okay. Why Bangalore?
We wanted to make it made in India, and there was a manufacturer with FDA approval, because we have to follow the FDA guidelines. And we needed a biocompatible lab to do biocompatibility studies. We needed risk assessments of the device. We needed EMP testing, so no electromagnetic radiation is on the move. So a lot of factors went into developing our device. But we are yet to find any device to measure blood pressure, temperature.
We'll discuss that in the next
Bluetooth in India, actually. We have to import it from US and bring it here, because there's no manufacturer in India who can make Bluetooth devices.
So we've highlighted the importance of robust data management and ethical design. Now let us look ahead how we can bring AI more effectively into routine healthcare, moving towards implementation and future outlook. So my question would be to all panelists here. So what is the biggest hurdles in adopting AI tools in your practice? How can we overcome the cost, the training? Can you tell briefly about that?
So the healthcare expenditure predominantly is for chronic diseases like hypertension, diabetes, metabolic syndromes and all. And I see many patients, more than 50% of them don't refill their medicines, and they are not interested to make visits to the doctors.
They're more interested in Dr. Google than real doctors.
Yeah, their interest is fine. The thing is, if you can have a personal dashboard, which is already existing, it is not expensive. In a mobile, you can make a personal dashboard
dashboard
for the patient. And the data, blood sugar or blood pressure, now you have electronic BP apparatus. And I tell my patients to measure their blood pressure morning and evening. And they have to learn how to treat their blood pressure by adjusting the dosage, by increasing it by 5 milligrams or decreasing. And many people now send me the list, the data, and they are now following their. The strict adherence to the medication is very, very important. 50% of the times patients don't adhere to the medication, even cardiac patients. We put a stent, we tell them on the table, if you stop the antiplatelet drug, there will be a clot and suddenly you may die. Some people listen, at the end of 6 months they stop. They stop for 1 week and check, okay, I stopped, nothing happened or nothing. What did it say? And suddenly they develop a stent thrombosis. So, how to project it into the people is self-learning. Now this has become very, very simple device. Yes. The mobile health apps are there. If they use properly for the common diseases. Number 2, for ER, 50% of proper telemedicine can avoid 50% of the ER visits. We see the anxious patients, richer patients coming from villages 50 kilometers for non-cardiac chest pain with muscle pain to the ER. But if you're proper, we have a telemedicine. They have 24 hours, there is a doctor.
Yes.
We ask him to give a call.
It's a video
we
call.
do the interview. And then if it is, so if a system is there, if an app is there where they can feed the symptoms, it tells you 99% is not cardiac.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
So these are the simple apps which can be introduced and the people can be educated how to use these tools. Now people are able to use even laborers there able to use this.
Wonderful.
So this is going to be a very, very simple technique in India, in a country like India.
Yes.
And we can.
Would you like to add to that?
Yeah, so I'll tell you in 2 different ways which actually we can increase adoption. First of all, from a implementation point of view, because I do consulting for a lot of startups who are building AI tools for India, and there is a big clinician management gap. And this is the single most and biggest reason why fantastic AI tools which the clinicians love using, like EMRs which make discharge summaries in 2 seconds or 3 seconds, which makes the IPD documentation by voice AI, ambient AI. These don't get adopted immediately by the management because it is making the job of the doctor easier.
Yes.
It is decreasing burnout for me. But
So
what is the advantage? What is the advantage for the management? How does it give a return on the investment? Right? So ROI is something which all startups usually do not focus initially while building the product, but gradually we all pivot towards showing that to be adopted by the management. This is the number 1 reason. Second reason is that 90% of the startups, now this trend is changing, but 5 years, 6 years back, most of the startups which started in the health tech space, they did not have a doctor co-founder.
Yeah, exactly.
And technocrats, technical people might think that they understand the nuances and the problems in healthcare, but usually you cannot understand certain small problems which a domain expert understands. So domain expertise is something which all startups ultimately will have to have in their team, and not just some advisor or contractual person, but in the founding team itself.
There's a lot of opportunity for AI startups, especially it is highly recommended to please consult some doctor for
whoever it is. I mean, if you're building in cardiology, you should have a cardiologist who is there, who has been
co-founder.
Definitely, that has to be there.
So do you want to add something to that?
Yeah, definitely. One is first we have to figure out a policy. What are you going to do with the data? Because I currently can use data in US from all sources. It's available. I can actually look up a doctor, what procedure he did and how much it cost the insurance company. That is publicly available. So if you did a scan, that cost is publicly available to use as a data. So one is having that single source of data somewhere at a national level where people who are AI startups can use that data to build models.
Yes.
Second is low-cost computing.
Low-cost computing.
Yes. We did a project, like he was saying, ROI is so important. We did a project where we were able to save about $500,000 to a company, but the computing cost was almost close to that. So the ROI was not there, but as they scale up, the ROI will come up. But AI is very notorious in initial when you're building the models, your computing costs are very high. And so how can you use low-cost computing? When I say low-cost computing, it could be your cell phone, it could be a computer. So use the federated model of where you're building models, some models on devices, some model on the cloud, and some models are from another company, and some models are from a national agency. So you have all these models, and then you bring all these models together, and you have a master model that is not using so much computing because a lot of that computing is done at that level.
Wonderful. So great insights.
Stronger and cheaper.
So great insights on that. So we are moving to the end stage of the discussion. I would like to ask one very pertinent question. So if there is one AI breakthrough which you want in the next 5 years, what would that be? What do you want? This is the reason I'm asking is that there are many startups, many IT companies. If they have to focus on something for the next 5 years and dedicating all their resources, so is there one technology that you want to come to the market with related to AI? And what would that be? One breakthrough, AI breakthrough, which you would want?
Yeah, already some work is being done. The major problem, as I mentioned, is a patient having triple vessel disease. What is it? Because even now, every year we have conferences, international conferences.
Yes.
One senior cardiologist says, I'll stand for all the three vessels.
The 3 years.
One surgeon says,
Yes.
I'll bypass all the three. And another senior cardiologist says, I'll manage with the latest medication. This is a very, very common problem. Intermediate coronary lesions, what we see in the invasive angiogram, is almost to the tune of 60%.
60%.
And many times, it is through eyeballing our cardiologists do either stenting or leave it or something.
So it's okay.
So, which plaque ruptures? Which plaque doesn't? Which is inflammatory?
Wonderful.
So, there is some data, but still, as I tell, there are so many unknown factors like collaterals, microvasculature, microcollaterals, macrocollaterals, you can see the angio.
Yes.
So likewise, there are so many unknown factors in which particular patient, which lesions progress, whether the patient needs surgery, stents. Even now, lots of every journal contains pros and against for a particular patient needs surgery.
Yes.
And it is not small percentage; it is a big percentage. Many doctors have these doubts. If you can identify which patient is going to develop problem, then that is and fix that properly. That is the best breakthrough. It is happening because you have, but in a sense that you have fractional flow reserve. You measure the pressure above the lesion and below the lesion. Number one. Number two, you have the plaque morphology. Number three, you see the fat attenuation by the side of the coronary artery. If there is 70% block in 3 vessels, which vessel is problematic, which vessel will cause? No, you know that now low fat attenuation index. By the side of that vessel, you see fat which has got low attenuation by CT index.
So these are all imaging related data.
Yes.
That another AI company can use these data points to build an AI model that can predict or chart an outcome for the patient.
This is patented. Actually, the computational fluid dynamics in 2015, it was patented by a company called Heartflow. It hasn't released it. I think even now it keeps on adding patents, 500 patents. So but then there are other technologies, other companies are coming up the way how to do this. And then it is not only the FFR, now it is, we know that it is the plaque morphology, the extent of plaque, and then the perivascular fat attenuation, and then the cap thickness and the dynamics, and the pressure is more, the plaque ruptures. That's why now we started looking at 120, 130, earlier 60-year-old person we used to say, oh, 160 is okay, your age, 100 plus 60. No, we are absolutely wrong. Now we know that even 60-year-old person, if there is no critical carotid artery disease, if the patient can tolerate, 120 is the blood pressure, target blood pressure.
Wonderful. So moving on to
Yeah.
please, what is your opinion on this?
See, you asked for one particular
One
thing.
AI breakthrough
One
in the next
AI
5
breakthrough.
years, what do you want?
See, if I had $1 million, I have to bet on one AI breakthrough, I would be building a generalist AI model. That is the future in which Microsoft, Google, and the top labs are working in the US.
Yes.
But in India, we still don't have this foundational model development picking up.
For India, you mean to say?
For India, yeah.
Yes.
And that is going to be the breakthrough, because narrow AI models which just pick up very single or a couple of diseases
Yes.
are not going to stand the test of time.
Yes.
Generalist models which picks up the entire spectrum of findings,
Yes.
and for that we need to have a huge amount of data. So first, getting the data in a central place,
Yes.
cracking that model,
Yes.
creating a foundational model, and once you have done that, you probably will be the most valuable radiology AI company in the country, or the healthcare AI company in the country.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah.
I think one thing I would like to see is build AI models for women's health,
Women's health, yes.
especially both their physiological and psychological health. Postpartum depression is a big issue.
Postpartum depression. So after pregnancy.
Yes, US spends more money on postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis, and postpartum issues than during pregnancy. So that is also happening in India, and there are not many companies focusing on AI models on prediction and prevention of postpartum. And then the second one, I would say, there is an opioid crisis coming in India.
Drug addiction.
Addiction, and using AI tools to prevent and treat addiction.
Drug addiction. Wonderful. Wonderful. So I would like to open the conversation to the audience. Invite questions from the audience.
AI in healthcare research. I'm doing my PhD there in Amrita University. So I have two peculiar questions. So it might one is for both cardiologists and for radiologists, and the other one is for this. So the major problem is like gathering the data for ECG. Why? Because my major research underlies in ECG and EEG part. So how can we approach any person to gather ECG data or any radiographs or any other images when we wanted to do research? Why? Because one of the major point is like data collection is very difficult in healthcare sector. Whereas we get data from US, but in India it's very difficult, and because of its diversity and anomaly. And the second question is like, when we develop any hardware devices, even once we have taken the FRDA approval, how do we educate people? Because there is a term called as radiation and EVF and EMF and all these parts. How do we educate people?
We'll handle one question at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, first, and your question is towards. So.
Yeah, some of the ECG machines, the ECGs can be transmitted online. For example, now we are doing the monitoring of the patients 24/7 in our central command station. This data is stored in the cloud, so that now we know that algorithms we are developing, which patient is likely to develop arrest 3 to 4 hours prior. So routine ECGs, yes, some of the machines do not have that, but then you have to have these ECGs and take pictures or then images and then send it. So that is, unless there is a repository, it is difficult.
For this, to get the data.
Yeah, see, normal, from the open source, they have ECGs, you have open books. But if you want real patients, then the ECG machines which have this capability to transmit, through the net, those things will be giving you the information.
For chest radiographs, ICMR has just released a couple of months back the dataset from India. But if you want to get into CT scans or MR scans, let's say cross-sectional imaging, I know most of the people who have this kind of data in the country, and we regularly have this discussion with them. People are skeptical now. Previously, 5 years or 6 years back, when Cure built their model, or when QBio built their model, they were having access to data much more easily than they have right now because of DPDP. And I'm being very frank and very honest. Every single imaging center in India right now is skeptical, because you never know, you might share a data with a startup, and then the DPDP Act is there, a competitor files a case against you, your reputation is gone, you lose money, right? So as long as you do not have a clear-cut regulatory framework of data, I think you should be looking for the time being at public hospitals. Like I know at least Safdarjung, PGI, they are very much willing to work with AI engineers for building their models. So look at public hospitals. Or the data law is in pipeline. It will come out very soon, maybe in a year or so. So at that time, you look at imaging centers. They will be very happy to help you out.
Yeah, wonderful. We'll take one final question.
I'm Dr. Kishan, not a medical doctor, a PhD in mathematics and PhD in computer science, AI. So we're building a lot of models, things and all that, but especially coming to healthcare.
So your name and which company?
Dr. Kishan, from a company called AIIMS Technologies.
Wonderful.
And there's also another company called Game Global. So we develop a lot of these models. We've been doing, this is my bread and butter, this is what we
Question, please.
Coming to the healthcare, we are working on, predominantly because I'm more interested in the cancer detection and all that. So we are working on biomarkers from the salivary and molecular omics, tears, omics and all. So we are working on those biomarkers and all that. So we have recruited some doctors also to check on, because we don't come from that field, we don't know anything about it. So I'm looking at some, because I especially want to talk to people like you to help me out in.
Please ask a question to sir regarding AI and personal medicine. Regarding your discussion, we can have.
Collaboration, we can take it off stage after the.
Yes.
Okay, fine then. We will
Yeah, one question.
Karthik Chikala. I have a question to Dr. Cardiologist. So there is a lot of research and wealth of knowledge shared on AI, which is prior to getting a heart attack. But for someone who already got, again, I'm taking example from one of my friends, someone who got a heart attack, how would AI help in cardiovascular endurance based on the vitals or the blood pressure, or even on anything on the heart vitals? So how would, and the diet as well, how is there any research done on the AI side on that aspect? Because that is majority of the patients that are already there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See, acute heart attack, 1,000 cells die. In fact, we installed about 16 computer ECG machines in year 2000 in peripheries in the areas where inaccessible. It used to get by fax. Sometimes when mobile was not available, WhatsApp was not available, we used to give treatment, we used to suggest treatment by telephone. So likewise, there is a lot of advances. Number one is good enough where you can give injections at that time and then give loading doses. Then during the transport, you have 5G ambulances. You have augmented reality, 5G, virtual reality. You can talk to the patient, you can have trained people. There is the other. So advances are going to happen in this way. One is transport. Then in the ICU, noiseless ICU, IoT, Internet of Things. So noise more than 60 decibels will kill some patients, right? So likewise, lots of things are happening in AI. Apart of the routine conventional treatment, what we give for coronary artery disease. Then after going home also, or before going home, cardiac MRI, or imaging, or ECG, sometimes it gives us a prediction whether the patient is going to have sudden cardiac death in the next 6 months or 1 year. Also, we follow the patients. We have a 3-to-9 program. We follow the patients, and whenever there is a problem, they can directly call the central command station. So likewise, you have several areas where the patients forget the medication. Patients don't know what to do. They forget. So alert, drug alert is another AI application.
Right. I guess my question, sorry to.
Yeah.
I guess my question was more of.
You are a smoker still. you can actually create a frailty score and it can predict whether you're going to go to the ER how many times and how many times to the hospital. And that's where AI is used. So if you have a high frailty score, that's when you start doing that prevention and
Thanks, sir. I have one question for
No,
Dr.
I can't because we are already late, and so thank you all for a fascinating discussion. Personalized medicine is already reshaping cardiology, radiology, and fetal health, and we've touched on the ethical and practical challenges that lie ahead. A few takeaways stand out. One is holistic collaboration. Implementing AI solutions effectively requires collaboration among clinicians, researchers, policymakers, technologists, ethics, and trust. Ensuring data integrity, data privacy, representation is very paramount for building trust in AI. And future potential. With ongoing research and technological advances, AI can significantly reduce the treatment variability, improve the outcomes, and ultimately transform patient care. So on behalf of Dept Naipunya organization and the event today, I'd like to thank our panelists for sharing their expertise. Thank also to all our audience for being such engaging part of the discussion. And we hope you leave inspired to explore the avenues in AI-based personalized medicine. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. From Phenom to do the honors.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
కనికే తినా అందరికీ బంద్గా అది షీల్డ్ మూడు తీసుకోవాలి ఎస్ ఓకే సార్